What is far deadlier than most people realize? Serious. Being poor. You can't afford basic healthcare, basic dental, basic decent anything, and your health pays for it. Not going to the dentist can kill you. Not being able to afford medication can kill you. Not being able to afford a day off to rest when you're feeling bad. Being broke doesn't just suck because you can't do fun stuff. Being broke sucks because you have to choose between your health and your immediate well-being. And hard work alone won't lift you out of that deadly negative cycle. Grapefruit in combination with many prescription drugs. Basically, grapefruit can affect the way your medications work. With some meds, adding grapefruit screws up the way your body metabolizes the drug, so you end up with far more than the prescribed dosage. It can also work in the opposite way with other drugs, leaving you with less than the prescribed dosage. This is especially bad if you have high blood pressure or arrhythmia. This article on the FDA site explains it way better. Link. I take a high dose of calcium channel blockers. One time in college I tried a crash diet where you eat a grapefruit for breakfast. My medicine bottle says not to eat grapefruit, but this had never been pointed out by a doctor or pharmacist, so I thought it wasn't a big deal. The second day, I decided maybe it was worth looking into, so I called my pharmacist to ask what would happen if I did eat grapefruit. Over the phone he said over and over, "No, don't eat grapefruit," and wouldn't tell me exactly what would happen. Finally I was like, well, I already did, so what do I need to be worried about? I ended up being completely fine, but I got a more stern scolding from that pharmacist than I've gotten from my parents for anything. Not sure if it's been said, but untreated sleep apnea, you literally stop breathing and get little quality sleep. The stress on your cardiovascular system is immense. Get tested. Period. Then wear the CPAP, no matter how unsexy it is. Or maybe surgery to eliminate or reduce the problem. Quit drinking. Been an EMT for a while and work with a lot of the homeless population. Will get calls for people who decided today is a day to finally quit drinking and do it cold turkey. As soon as the next morning people can present with delirium tremens. Severe withdrawals can induce seizures and can also lead to death. A lot of these people will think because they quit hard drugs like heroin or meth, cold turkey alcohol would be the same without knowing the major effects it can have on your health. Edit. Guess I should add this is only for people with alcohol dependency and not all your casual or even heavier drinkers. Trucker here. I've had 2 blood clots in my legs from driving long distances and having my leg pressed against the corner of the seat for hours on end. One almost killed me. Apparently it's very common with truckers. You're supposed to stop and walk around every hour and a half to keep things circulating, which almost nobody does due to time constraints. The same thing happens in gaming chairs. Apparently people forget to move their legs because they're so focused on the game. You don't need to worry so much if you're younger, but if you're a gamer who's a little older, please be aware. Deep vein thrombosis (DVT) is a well-documented effect of long-haul flights too, which is why pilots who fly long-haul and ultra-long-haul flights lasting more than 10 hours wear pressure socks. Passengers are advised to walk around the cabin once every few hours, with flights lasting up to 18 hours. This is a necessity. Get the blood moving. If any of these clots somehow dislodge and reach your heart, it is goodbye. MD here. Clots form in medium-sized veins, most commonly in the legs. If part of that clot breaks off, it travels up the larger veins that feed to the heart. It then enters the right side of the heart where blood is pumped to the lungs to be oxygenated. The arteries in the lung get progressively smaller the further from the heart. This is where clots can be problematic, not the heart, which is a larger diameter. If the clot is large and blocks one of the larger arteries or worse saddles at the branch to both lungs, it can be fatal for 3 reasons. First, it creates extra pressure that the heart has to pump against. The right side of the heart doesn't handle pressure well like the left side, where a typical systolic pressure is 20/30 versus 120 plus of the left. Small increases in pressure can cause extra strain in the right heart, leading to heart failure, severe peripheral edema, and death. Secondly, the clot can cause a lung infarction and kill off part of the lung. And lastly, it prevents oxygenation. Luckily, The vast majority of pulmonary embolisms lodge in smaller, more peripheral vessels, where they only cause the latter, blocking some oxygenation and causing mild shortness of breath and chest pain. They are easily treated with blood thinners and avoiding the provoking cause. Driving while tired. All you need is that one slow part, or that one part that lulls even a little to put you out. Penile fracture. If this happens to you, do not hesitate to get medical help. 12 weeks ago this happened to me. The tissue that fills with blood and makes the penis erect can fracture when impacted awkwardly. Bend at 45 degrees and a huge hematoma and swelling. I went the ed, and after the poor student doctor saw it, I was rushed into hospital. I was informed if it wasn't surgically fixed it could mean necrosis and removal. The surgical procedure involved degloving the penis, removing the hematoma, stitching up the fractured tissue under the skin, and then stitching the skin back on. Still having nerve pain, not mention the effect it's had on our sex life. A Brazilian butt lift barrels gives people a figure reminiscent of the Kardashians and is hugely popular for getting that Instagram body. But a paper in the Aesthetic Surgery Journal found that 1 in 3,000 BBLs resulted in death, making it the world's most dangerous cosmetic procedure. Testicular torsion. Don't be embarrassed to ask for help. In all honesty, the embarrassment is all in your head. Doctors, nurses really don't give a duck. They really don't care and aren't judging you one bit. They have seen everything and then some more. But they will judge you if you make the foolish decision not to seek help cause of made up embarrassment and lose your balls. The pain might not be severe, but you have a few hours tops before your balls die. Edit to put some numbers to this. If you wait longer than 6 hours, permanent damage may occur. After 12 hours, there's a 75% chance of losing the testicle. Source link. Canoeing. People misjudge currents all the time. 12-year-old girl died here just last weekend. A hangnail. Yes, seriously, I had a hangnail once. It got infected. It became swollen and inflamed. The swelling sealed it shut. The abscess became worse. I went to urgent care. They took one look at my finger and sent me to the emergency room. I was becoming septic. I spent about 36 hours in the hospital, then home for 2 months of antibiotics. I could have died. Where's link? It's amazing how many people play around them or swim just upstream of them. Almost no one knows the bottom of them is a death trap of rotating undercurrent, and almost no one knows how to escape one. If you do get stuck in it, even if you do know how to get out, you'll have a heck of a time of it. If a kid gets stuck in one, they're as good as dead, as is anyone who goes in to save them. Very few actually have warnings around them. If you unluckily get trapped in one, try to swim down to the bottom and claw your way downstream along the bottom a ways and then swim up to the surface. Example link. Example link. Example link. They are called low-head dams or run-of-the-river dams in some parts of the world. Sometimes warning signs for them will just say dam. Keep in mind this danger is present anytime water is flowing shallow and fast over the top of something into deeper water at an angle. Even a large rock or fallen tree that has water running over it can create the same underwater trap. Grapefruit juice interacts with a lot of medications and could be very harmful to you depending on the medications you take. Mosquitoes. Those little FKs killed billions of people throughout the course of history by transmitting them deadly diseases. If you see a mosquito, kill it, or it might kill you. Get the duty handled or get a nasty kidney infection. Essential oils. Do not put them in your food. They are not made to be food safe. Vacation. Particularly in nature, if you're not used to being in nature. There's a book called Death in Yellowstone and talks about all the weird ways people have died there. Walking off cliffs, falling trees, falling into boiling water. There's the obvious wildlife attacks, but there's plenty of less obvious ways. The thing is, people are relaxing for once on vacation, and they put themselves in different environments than they're used to. They have their guards down. Holding your breath while scuba diving. To most people who don't scuba dive, it may sound harmless, but if you hold your breath and ascend even a little over a meter, you can suffer major lung damage as a result of the gas in your lungs expanding from the lessening pressure. When I was training to dive, my instructor took a gallon milk jug down with us, and he filled it half full with air and brought it upwards, explaining what he would do before we went down. It didn't take long before it filled completely with air and blew the cap off as we were going up. When we got to the surface, he said, imagine that was your lungs. Oleandernerium. In fact, it's one of the most common ornamental plants in Southern California, planted in people's backyards and along freeways. The only problem is it's one of the most poisonous plants in the world. Toxic compounds include nereoside, alendroside, and saponins. Throwing a single punch. Here in Australia it's been criminalized because fights in pubs and clubs are pretty common. The single punch isn't what causes injury, but falling to the ground and hitting their head on the curb can kill, especially since drunk people usually don't have the capacity to soften their fall. Think twice before you risk taking a life over losing your pride for a night. Digging and playing in holes on the beach like I used to love to do as a kid. They cave in and smother kids. Dangers in the sand link. Touching shit inside a guitar amp can duck you up really bad. It holds a charge, and it all comes out at once if you touch the wrong spot. Going for runs on the roads at night without wearing lights or reflectors. Oftentimes people even wear black. They think that just because they can see the car, that the car can see them. It only takes one accident to change someone's life completely. Visine. People seem to have this idea that a few drops of Visine in someone's drink will give them diarrhea, and do it to prank each other, or get some sort of satisfaction with petty revenge. People are sitting in prison for murder for doing this. The main active ingredient is called tetrahydrozoline. Once it enters your gastrointestinal tract, it can be absorbed by your intestines and end up in your blood, causing your blood pressure and heart rates to drop to potentially life-threatening levels. It really makes me wonder how many people have died due to people copycatting that scene in Wedding Crashers. Acetaminophen. It's rough on your liver in large doses. I know a lot of people who ignore the recommended dose and pop them like they are Skittles for pain. This is incredibly dangerous. Link. Engulfment and confined spaces. With confined spaces, people usually don't realize that O2 runs out rather quickly. Engulfment because people probably don't think about essentially drowning in non-liquids. Flowing solid materials don't even have to cover your nose to asphyxiate you. Anything above belly button level will slowly constrict your diaphragm each time you breathe out, just like a boa constrictor. Eating a slug. Obviously it's nasty, but kids do stupid shit as dares or even in hazing rituals. Slugs contain parasites that will get into your brain and ducking kill you slowly. I just read a whole article about rat lungworm, snails and slugs that is haunting me. Lack of sleep. Increased risk of basically everything you can think of, not to mention that accidents are far more common when you're tired. The less sleep you get, the shorter your lifespan. Posted safety precautions. When there are signs saying something, lots ignore thinking they know better. I used to work it for a place that makes big tractors. Different stations are restricted from using certain PPE. One day this lady was wearing the wrong gloves. Her station is only supposed to use latex. She didn't take that seriously and wore thicker reinforced gloves. She was using the lugnet machine that tightens 12 giant lugs at once. Her glove got caught, and instead of ripping the fingertip off of her latex glove, it ripped her thumb right the duck off her hand. I witnessed it, and her mistake haunts me to this day. They had to restrain her while two men held her hand up in the air away from her. Her wails and screams were terrifying, all because she ignored a well-placed warning. Edit. Thanks for the awards and upvotes. Never posted anything that received that much attention. Thanks for the dopamine hit. Abscess. Teeth can kill you. I had an abscess at 21 that I didn't get treated until I was 28 due to a fear of the dentist. By that point it was a root canal and an extraction, and I now have a section of my jaw missing. Get it early and avoid this shit. Tylenol. It's actually a lot easier to overdose on than most people realize, and it slowly destroys your liver over a period of days. Not a fun way to die, to put it lightly. For all you high functioning alcoholics out there, just avoid Tylenol. Real black licorice root extract contains the natural sweetener glycyrrhizin, which is over 50 times sweeter than sucrose. This ingredient has various pharmaceutical properties. It acts as an expectorant, facilitating removal of mucus from the lungs by coughing, and it increases blood pressure. The latter effect can become significant with a daily consumption of 50 g or more of licorice candy for as little as 2 weeks. Glycyrrhizin can cause potassium levels in the body to fall, triggering abnormal heart rhythms, as well as high blood pressure, edema, swelling, lethargy, and congestive heart failure in some people. I always loved going to Europe as a kid and finding the licorice candies with the may cause hypertension warning labels on them. Felt dangerous eating them. Haha. Infections can still duck you up easily if you don't seek medication attention in time. Exploring abandoned places. When I was a kid I would do it all the time and take photos without any form of facial protection. Fast forward years later, and I learn about how toxic certain molds can be. How many older buildings used materials like asbestos which can be in the air when places are left to rot, etc. At this point I just thank God I never had to deal with the aftermath of any of that. Also, to anyone who enjoys doing this, I get it. I just want to bring awareness to the fact that if you participate, a respirator and goggles should be a must. Also, as a side note, be wary of scrappers and individuals looking for a place to do drugs. Had a run-in like that during one of the last excursions I made, and it's not fun. Just want to throw a story out here. I'm a dentist. I have a colleague who had a patient that needed a root canal. The patient put it off. He had a vacation coming up. He was going to Alaska in bush country to go hunting by himself. Now Alaska bush country means you are alone. He was dropped off and his ride wasn't going to come back to pick him up for a week or two. Well, after his ride left, the tooth he needed to get his root canal on blew up, had severe pain, and was all alone. No one to help him in the middle of nowhere. This was mid to late 90s, so no cell phone either. Well, his ride came back to pick him up. Finds a dead body. The guy killed himself. He couldn't take the pain anymore. Pain was so bad he couldn't wait the 1 or 2 weeks for his ride to come back. Shot himself, left a suicide note telling his story. Moral of the story: don't put this shit off. There is no pain like tooth pain.